Yo, my peoples, what's up? Jason here with another kids game review. Today I'm taking a look at CoraQuest from Cora and Dan Hughes' Dice Tower Luminary Personalities. This one is a dungeon crawler for 1 to 4 players, in which we are going to take 4 adventurers into a dungeon and have rollicking adventures. The unique thing about this is that you can play this with your very, very young children. The rule set is easy. You could just jump in and play, and the whimsy in here. I can't wait to talk about that. Also, I can't wait to share some insights from my 6-year-old daughter with whom I played this game as well. But before I get into that, I'd like to offer some disclaimer. I am a psychotherapist. I'm always looking for games to play, especially adventure games in my psychotherapy with children. That's why I really was interested in the development of CoraQuest as it was going on. I was an early observer of the early iterations and also a booster giving previews on my podcast for it. So I am thanked on the box, but I'm going to do my best to offer my honest opinion of the final product of CoraQuest. Without further ado, let's go to the videotape. Here are the heroes and heroines and whatever that is of CoraQuest. This is a dungeon crawler, as I said at the top. So you are going to need some heroes, and it is very wide and fun and diverse. The first thing that's going to leap out at you, maybe the thing that's going to be the draw for your child, is the art. We have the mage woman, we have crossbow person. Everybody looks different. This was a fan requested one, and a lot of people were excited about this. The sword girl. And there are other characters available as well. So we have 8 in total. You pick 4, and they are going to be the ones that are adventuring. You're going to grab an item, and the item is going to determine how many dice they roll. Generally, it's going to be a red die and a white die, and then you would follow whatever the indicator says for range and all that kind of stuff. But these are your heroes. This is their health tracker. We're ready to go. And then we have the flip side, which is the monster. And to be clear, this art was crowdsourced, done by children, at least inspired by children, all around the world, and was finished off by the inimitable Gary King to kind of give it a cohesive feel. We have your goblins and your gremlins and your spiders and usual mob characters. And then along the way, we have bosses that we are going to encounter. They're a little bit tougher. The snake, the troll, the cat. What? Paula Deming put in the cat. So go ahead and blame her and a bunch of other monsters as well. Here is our intrepid adventuring party, and they are ready to explore the dungeon. To be clear, no matter how many players they're sitting at the table, you always do 4 characters. So someone, usually adult, is going to be controlling multiple characters if you have less than 4 players. So just keep a mind out for that. You are going to construct the quest out of the Book of Quests. There's plenty of quests in here, and there's a little bit of variety to them too. I'll show that after I finish showing basics. But every time you will construct the deck of dungeon tiles according to how they are constructed here. And usually you're going to construct general dungeon tiles and then mix them in with some special tiles. So like each of these tiles has a story attached to it. So every 3 cards or so, you are going to encounter it. Usually there's a letter down there, and you're going to read some kind of story. So the game is very much narrated, very much tuned to an adult or an older child reading and creating an atmosphere for the younger ones. On a particular character's turn, they can do a couple of things. A free action is to explore, and you can explore as many times as you want, and placing tiles. So let's say I go ahead and explore that tile, place it. There are monsters afoot. You would consult the symbols. In this case, these symbols mean orc, and we are going to have some orcs appear right there. And of course, the little weenie archer is back there. As I said, you could explore multiple times per turn, so this particular case, we got a little bit luckier, but in that, we put a treasure, and there is going to be actions available on the turn for everybody from there. Basic action is to attack. You can move diagonally. There's no kind of attack of opportunity or hindering a movement on that. It's very simple. We're just going to get into position, and then we are going to attack. As we saw before, You roll 2 dice, and the red have 3 successes and the white have 2. Generally, for your characters, you're going to roll and then splat somebody. If they have 1 hit point, which some of the weaker ones do, they'd be dead. The orcs are a little bit tougher than that, so you can go ahead and indicate a damage. Characters get 2 actions on a turn, so they can move and attack, or they can attack twice. So then let's say my character had not moved. They had just stayed where they are. They'd be able to attack again. Splat! Bow! Take that. If they had missed totally, which is very easy to do if you had just rolled zeros. This is something you're going to want to know for your kid so that they can kind of mitigate the disappointment. They do become determined. So then they would get an extra white die to roll, and they roll that white die until a hit occurred, and then they would calm down. So the characters do have special abilities, very, very simple ones. So then if Sorga really wanted to lay that hit in, she could put herself and or one other adjacent hero. Right now, no one's adjacent, but she's going to wheel in there and become determined. So then this would be preemptively, and only she could do that. When you fire off a power, it would go on this cooldown track over here. The end of every round, that's going to tick down, and so you'll get that back the following round. So every other round, if you wanted to, you can use your special ability. And also you have the wizard woman right here, who, let's say that the sword girl has finished going. It would be the wizard woman's turn. She could do the same thing. So she could, because her wand has range, she could hit this one. There's line of sight rules and all that kind of stuff, but they're pretty simple. And if she wanted to, she can, after damaging a target, do the same amount of damage to one enemy adjacent to that target. So let's give it a shot. Ah! Go get him! I'm gonna get ya! I sort of got you. And that's the rhythm of the game. You're gonna, roll lots and lots of dice. You're gonna have opportunities to make it up, and so forth. Besides moving and attacking, another thing that you could do with one of your 2 actions is to search. So let's say my crossbow over here wanted to see what treasure was there. You have plenty of options for treasure. You have armor, some items, potions, that kind of thing to help you out in your adventure as well. Every character is going to get 1 activation at the end of that. Every character is going to, let's say you tap them to indicate that they had gone. You could untap them and then they're ready to go. But then there would be an enemy turn in which they would attack. They're pretty simple. Wherever they are, or they have a movement and an attack, they can attack twice if you want to. So moving around is pretty good. You resolve that pretty simply. And then the countdown round would tick down like this. This is the threat meter. Every time this ticks down from 1 to 0, then anything with a full web like this, would get a spider. Kind of the game prodding you, move along. And then it would go back to 2, so you would get a kind of a constant influx of spiders. And that's basically it. You would continue to reveal cards until the last card was revealed down here, and you would generally defeat a boss. But you can also have a boss there and have to accomplish something else. So, find some kind of special treasure, or stack the cards, play a dexterity game. Or there's lots of room for cute little things. And there is plenty of room and directions included in the book to design your own characters, your own items, and your own adventures. To assist you in making your own adventures, it does point you to a free web app so that you can create different adventures on your own. So you can go ahead and check that out. So now I want to tell you what my daughter thought of the game in a short little clip, and then I'll tell you what I thought, give you some final thoughts. All right, I'm here with my daughter Simone. We're playing CoraQuest. We're in the middle of our adventure. Simone, what do you think so far?
It looks pretty good.
It looks good, right? Do you like the art? You like the art? Did you know that kids like you drew all the art? Kids your age, like 6 and 7, they drew all the art. Do you like that? Okay, well, what do you like about the game? Do you like the game, or do you not like the game so much?
Not so much.
Not so much, okay. So what don't you like?
I don't really like that you keep moving the tiles because it's too big.
The room ended up being a little bit too big for my daughter. This is a pretty sizable thing, 12 and then each of these tiles comes with an enemy that pops out, and we have to roll a lot of dice, right? Is it, you're always rolling dice? Okay. So did you like rolling the dice? The dice were fun? Okay, good. But it was a little bit too long to get through. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Well, just say thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And my daughter didn't like this game. We didn't even end up finishing that one. I've tried a couple of times, but she is not interested. But in terms of giving a well-rounded analysis from a kid's perspective, I thought it was valuable to put that in there. And I want to break down why I think that she wasn't taken by this game. And I think that's where I want to emphasize that she wasn't, immersed. When someone says something is too long, what that's really code for oftentimes is that they didn't get into that flow. And when you get in a flow state with a game or an activity, then time disappears. And if you're not in that flow state, then you're watching the clock. Uh, and my daughter just wasn't absorbed. And there's a couple of reasons for that, I feel. Number one, she struggled with the squad aspect, where you always play four characters. I tried different iterations, two and two, or you control 1, 3, roll dice for the different characters and make decisions, or let daddy do it, and just different things. And she didn't get it. Like she wanted, I want my character, and she wanted daddy to have his character. We want to go off on an adventure. We've done adventures like that before, and I was able to kind of get her a little bit better when it was just us two, not just at the table, but on the game pieces as well. She does a little bit better when we both have avatars as opposed to there being multiple ones. The second aspect that I thought where my daughter struggled was, I think as gamers we take for granted a little bit that dice are exciting. And so that idea that rolling a dice is, matches up 1-to-1 with swinging a sword or whatever. And that's a natural thing for us as we've been socialized, but it's a socialization. My daughter's still not there. Dice are still, she's still in the roll and move phase, or, different games that use dice like that. Doesn't quite code as adventure exciting kind of thing. Just the dungeon crawl genre in general depends on buying a lot. You have to have that image in your head of, what the game is giving you. And if you have it, you have it, and you're having a great time. If you're not, then it's just flip a card, roll. But the gears disappear. The emperor has no clothes, and you go from wrapped up and excited to eh. And I think that's where my daughter was. She just didn't buy the adventure. And I get very excited, reading the stories and doing voices. Hey, you're going to go into the dungeon. Da, 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 da. And she loves that aspect of it, but it didn't help her get into the game as it would in maybe a few other games. Just the dungeon crawling genre in general, no matter what the stories were, just didn't grab her. And so, brought this game to other folks to play with their children. They loved it. Everything that my daughter had a struggle with, other kids had a great time with. And we're talking kids that are 5, 7, 8, in that range there. Loved it. Loved the multiple characters. Loved the opportunity to kind of do tactical stuff. Loved the story bits. And in fact, there was one point where, because the deck has the story cards in it. So they're flying through discovering everything to get to the next story beat. It's oh my God. How many monsters are out there? And then they eventually kind of learned and worked it out and kind of moved on. One thing that I did, and this is a little bit of a variant that I introduced, was to give a little bit of spice to the monsters. I think out of the box, the monsters, whether your kid is absorbed or not, they don't do anything. And I know that Dan is very conscious of that. I was following through on the designer diary as he was posting them, and as Dan and Cara were designing it, saying, I need to make these decision points. What's complicated for the sake of interesting, and then what's streamlined. So hitting that middle is very, very hard. So I understand what was going on there. But I think what came out in terms of the monsters were just they show up and they die. They show up and you miss, and they kind of walk and you miss. It's just not very interesting because the movement isn't very interesting. So one thing that the kids kind of talked about it, we did it together, which is a great thing that this game does, enables kind of collaboration. We talked about making the monsters a little bit more interesting. We used the cooldown track. Whenever the monsters hit their cooldown, they would do a thing. We invented the orc varsity squad. No matter where the orcs were, they would like form up and like an offensive line, and they kind of push a little bit. Or the archers would disappear and then reappear elsewhere in the dungeon. Kind of like shoot out of the darkness or whatever, just to add a little bit of sense of kinetic feeling to the game. And that rose out of collaboration. And the fact that this game supports that is excellent. And that's where ultimately I'm going to land, is that every kid is different. Every kid is going to approach something like this in a certain way. And I think that speaks well for the product because, there's a lot of kids games out there that are kind of like for everybody, for the mass market, and, kids might fall in and out of it. But I think this is the type of game that knows what it is, and not every kid is going to like it. But if you do, it's going to be a thing that they're going to sink into and make their own, and play the adventures and make up their own adventures. So it's going to get a kid seal of approval from me on the grounds that every kid is different. It may not be a Simone approval, my child, but it might be your child cup of tea. If you could change your mind, you could change the world, people. So until next time, later, everybody.